All right. So you're walking through the desert and you're dying of thirst. You've ran out of water. You ran out of water yesterday and you're just, so thirsty. And as you're walking, you see this hand pump, old style hand pump sitting in the middle of the desert. And beside it is a bottle of water. It looks kind of funky. Might have been sitting in there for a long while. What do? Do you drink the water or do you pour it down the well? We'll be talking about that this week on episode number 92 of The Relaxed Male.
Hello and welcome to Relaxed Male, podcast that helps men change their relationship with themselves. I am your host, Brian, and I am a men's life and mindset coach who is here to help you understand that you don't have to suffer at your own expense. You can live your dream, and I encourage you to set, then pursue your goals. So join me as I change the mindset and attitudes of men so that they can be the leaders of their families and their destinies.
Hey man, hello and welcome to Relaxed Male. All right, guys, got a interesting show for you today. But before we actually get started, I wanted to go ahead and just thank all you new folks who have come in and started listening to the show. If this is your first time, I appreciate you taking the time to actually stop and put me in your ears and let me speak sweet bits of knowledge into your mind. And I hope that this show actually fulfills a portion of what you're actually after. This show is a show to help take the nice guy in our lives and transform him into a man who actually and live life on his terms. So as we go through the episode today, maybe this episode will actually help you to be able to start taking action in your life and find things as in where you're actually able to make lasting change. So, as I started the show off, I talked about you walking through the desert. You hadn't had anything to drink in a full 24 hours, and you come across this old hand pump. Beside the hand pump is an old bottle, and in that bottle, it's got some funky looking water in it. But it's water. It just doesn't. It's not going to taste good or anything like that. But there's water in it. You have a choice. You can either consume the bottle, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I have nothing. I'm going to die if I don't drink right now." But you're going to have this hot, nasty, you've been sitting in the sun for days, months, even years. And you can either drink that water and take a chance, or you can take that water and you can pour it down the well. Now, why would you want to even think of pouring some nasty old water down a well? Well, it helps to understand how those old style hand pumps were made. You take the handle, and as you work the handle, when you're lifting it up, it's actually pushing a sucker rod down. And depending on how old that pump is, that pump probably has a set of either baffles or check valves that are kept in place and regulated by pieces of leather. And if you're working that pump and with dry leather, the leather when it gets dry, it shrinks up. And so as it shrinks up, it's not able to provide a good seal. So you can pump all day long and you're not going to draw any any water up the well. So what happens when you take that water and pour it down the well? You're actually doing something called priming the pump. And when you prime that pump up, now you can actually start pumping, and that as the leather gets wet, it re-expands. It's going to do the job that it was meant to do. And so it'll actually start working like it's supposed to. And as you pump, it'll actually start to draw water up out of the well and up the pipe, and out it'll come. So you've got a choice. You can either take the time to do the hard work first. You can take it and it's a bit of a sacrifice because, honestly, you don't know. Maybe if you pour the water down the well, maybe that pump's broken. And so you're going to pump. Now, the other problem that you're going to have, and one of the reasons why it's important, because once you've done the sacrificial work of pouring that water down the well and you've started priming the pump, you don't know how deep that well is. That well could be just 10 foot deep. It may be 200 feet deep. You honestly don't know, but all you can do is you can sit there and you got to start pumping. Now, if you ever played with one of these pumps, you know when it actually starts to catch suction, because boy, you have no resistance. You're just clank, 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 clank. You're just clanking that thing back and forth, and it's making all sorts of noises. And you're like going, crud, this thing is not working. And then all of a sudden you're going to feel, and it's going to get kind of heavy. And there's going to be a bit of resistance, and we've caught. And now it's the job of you actually taking the time to pump that water up from no matter telling how deep it is up to the top to where you can get a drink. So you may sit there and pump, and yet sometimes it'll take 10, maybe even 15 minutes of you pumping if it's a really, really deep well. But you sit there and you get to pumping and you pump and you pump and you work that handle and you keep going, and eventually comes forth out of the spout some of the coldest, cleanest, most incredible water you've ever had. And that's water that you can drink and drink and drink and drink and drink until you are full and you have thoroughly satiated that thirst. Life, believe it or not, is like that. A lot of times, especially these days, I seem to notice so many guys who are wanting to get that water instantly. They want to drink the bottle of nasty water. It serves the purpose. It kind of gets rid of the dust out of your throat, but it's not very good. It's not very sustaining either, because you've only got this, it may be a bucket or it might be a gallon jug of water, but still you've only got just this very limited amount of water. And people, especially with people with scarcity mindsets, this is a perfect example of someone who has a choice. If they've got a scarcity mindset, they're going to think, oh my God, I'm going to die. I can't get the well to work. The well's not working. I don't have time to sit here and I'm going to die. So I'm going to drink the water. And they drink the water. Well, they've now shot themselves in the proverbial foot. They've also gone off and have doomed anybody else who comes by, because they're not going to have a jug of water to be able to prime the pump with. So you want to take a person with scarcity mindsets. They're not going to want to take that water, and they're going to see us dumping it down the well as a waste. It's like, oh my God, we could be drinking that. Yeah, it's nasty. It's horrible taste in water, but still we could be drinking that. That could save our lives, without ever seeing the results of what happens and the return on investment of taking that water and dumping it down the well so you can wet the leather. Get that weather. I can't talk today. Get the leather good and wet. And before you know it, you taking the time to treat that leather and to take care of it and to get it loosened up and pliable again, it will actually pay you back beyond what your original investment of that 1 gallon is. And so that's when it comes to like work. So many people, they come in and they start working and they do stuff and they're working and they're only there for maybe a year or so. And they're going, well, this is stupid. I'm not ever going to get get higher up on the ladder. It's a dead end street. It's never going to happen. And they'll tell themselves this isn't happening. Well, yeah, that first year you can start wetting your leather for the job. You can start taking that time of taking efforts into making sure that you get stuff done. If you're just showing up to collect a paycheck, you're there to do your one thing, the thing you were supposed to do. You sit and you stop at 5 o'clock and it's time. Well, you probably stop at 4:45 going, all right, well, I need to start getting myself ready to go home. You're not wetting that leather. You're not priming that pump for your ability to carry on further down the road. You're not going to get nearly what you put into it. You have to put, Zig Ziglar said it best, you have to put stuff in before you can get stuff out. So if you want a great return, you have to put yourself into it. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it can suck. Yeah, it can be a pain in the ass from time to time. But you have a choice. You can either prime that pump and work and not have any idea how deep that well is. You may have to work for 5 years before all of a sudden whoever higher up manager decides, all right, he's had enough and he wants to go, hitchhike across Europe. And so he decides to leave, and there's a position that opens up for you. You don't know what's ahead. We're terrible prognosticators. And so many people want to say it doesn't work. It's these menial tasks. They're such a pain in the butt. Instead of actually taking that menial task and looking at and taking it by the horns and going, you know what, I'm going to work on this menial task. This, a lot of times some guys have actually gone as far as calling it bitch work. And instead of sitting there going, this is crap. I'm not ever going to get anything from this. Instead of doing that, if they were to have gone far enough and actually applied themselves and taken that quote unquote bitch work and turned it and applied it as if it was the most important part of this company. If this didn't get done, the whole company would fall down. Your results in putting that much of yourself into that job would come back tenfold. You're putting something in, you're putting yourself in, you're putting your effort, a lot of your effort into that job. And so you're going to get a lot more of a return. If you're just drinking straight from the jug, you're just going to, you're going to half-ass the job. And then no one's going to really notice the job. But if you take that menial job, maybe it's stuffing envelopes. Maybe you have to help the mail department. I've done that before, where you had to sit with the mail department and sit there and count out forms that they've ordered and fold them up, stuff them in the envelope, and stick it in there. And you're just doing that repeatedly. Try folding and then putting it in an envelope and putting it in a mailbox or in a mail tray, and just doing that all day for a week. And at that time, I really didn't have the best mindset about it. I was just like, oh God, this is so freaking stupid. I don't know why. They've got machines for this. And I know they had machines for it because I actually sat around and watched them use it. They had a machine that took up half a freaking room. They would put a stack of forms and newsletters and things like that onto this. And this is back when I worked over for the American Quarter Horse Association. And they had this big old machine, and it worked off in pneumatics because it would create a little suction to lift up a sheet of paper. And so it would lift everything up, and it would slide into an area, and it would in the blink of an eye would sit there and fold everything up into just the right size to fit in the envelope. And then the stack of envelopes would be on one end, and it would lift up the side, and there'd be this little carrier that would shove the paper in, and then it would, let the little suction cups would let the top of the envelope go, and there'd be a little bar that kick out the envelope off to the side, and it would catch up by something else, and it would run under a wet sponge type of thing, and then it would seal it. So it would do everything all at once. And I'm sitting here over in the corner, hand folding stuff. Count 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh God. This is so stupid. Oh, there's 300. All right. Let's just count it out. And you wouldn't actually give them 300. You may give them, 325 forms or whatever it was that they were needing. And it can be you can look at it in two different ways. You can look at it as, hey, I am helping this company get stronger, increase its base. Or I can, have the thought of, this is crap. This is so boring. There's nothing for me. This is a dead end job. And you can think of that as a dead end job, or you can think of it as this is step one of a 30-step job. Step one is you're in the mailroom. You're going to be stuffing envelopes for God knows how long until you become the director of the mail department. And from the director of the mail department, you may become director of something else and go from there. And maybe you decide, hey, I want to try the sales side. And so you may migrate over to the sales, and you can move around. And if you put 100% of yourself in there, you pour that yourself down that well, you're going to get something in return eventually. But sometimes, you don't. We get real close, that we feel that water getting real close, but you know what? We're just so damn tired. Oh, golly, why do I have to keep doing this? This is so, okay, never mind. I'm going to go die. And you don't know, maybe that water was just, 4 inches from the lip. It was just one more pump and out it would splash. There's a great story called, Acres of Diamonds. And it's about, this farmer who I think lived in Africa, somewhere in Africa, South Africa or something like that. And he started hearing that, that there was a large deposit of diamonds being found like in the town next over. And he had this little farm, and he was just out there just kind of doing stuff, barely making ends meet. And he was just kind of, and he saw the chance to make millions of dollars in diamonds. And so he sold his farm to this other guy, and he takes off and goes to, over, and he searches and mines and finds nothing, ends up homeless, loses everything. And the guy who bought the farm from him one day was walking around his property, and he noticed down inside of a little creek bed a diamond. And this was not just a little diamond. This was one of the larger diamonds that he'd ever seen in his life. And he saw this diamond, and come to find out, he was sitting on one of the largest diamond deposits in that whole area. And that's what happens so many times, is people will work themselves to the bone. All of a sudden they'll say, hey, wait a minute, there's something even better over on the other side. And so they run off and they go to take over that other area, and didn't realize that they were just about to strike the mother lode. They were fixing to hit the richest vein of what they were wanting to do. But they gave up before they ended up making it. And a lot of times we give up the job. We give up our careers. We give up on our marriages right before things get better. And that's sadly, that's the way life is. You hear a lot of people talk when if they're in the business of their own, they're struggling trying to get stuff going, and they just getting strong. They're just, they're just running their head into a brick wall and just not getting anywhere. And it gets so aggravating, and they're just all desperate, and they're, I'm going to have to give up if this doesn't break. And, that tension gets so great, and the emotions and the alienation and the loneliness and everything else seems to just go, and life seems to be pouring on you. And all of a sudden, crack, something breaks, and then you get to the other side, and all of a sudden you have all that you were wanting to have. That could be, the life that you were intending to have with your wife, the relationship that you wanted with your wife, the clients start actually noticing you and start coming in. That all happens because we are willing to keep putting on the work and not just turning around and deciding, never mind, it's not worth it, and turning around and leaving. And this whole premise of priming the pump works not only for work, but it works for marriages. It works for your kids. You won't ever realize it until your kids are in their older, in their early adulthood. And one day you're going to hear them saying something that you've been telling them for years. And they're going to be stating it like it's something that they've been talking about for their whole life. And essentially they have. It's just that they've been hurt. They've been hearing it from you over and over and over. You've got to make sure that you have $1,000 in the bank. You've got to make sure that you have a job before you quit a new job to replace the one you quit, whatever it is you have. And if they're talking to another friend, they're going to start saying those words that they're going to start using your words to their friends. We often worry that our kids aren't listening to us, but they are. And we have to keep doing the work. You have those standards and you have those beliefs and you have those thoughts, and those are all there ready to help you become the success that you think is due. For marriage, again, you may think that your marriage is failing. Your marriage is starting to fall apart. Well, that might be the case, but if you're willing to put in the effort and put in the work, there's a chance you can always turn that big old boat around and you can start saving your marriage. You can actually, especially if you start applying those 4 different pillars of Relaxed Male, which are working on your body, your mind, your soul, and your community. You get those guys really going. You're essentially adding 4 extra rudders to that big old Titanic yacht boat of yours, and you're able to get that marriage turned around, and you can start living that marital life where you're having a deeper connection. You're having a better relationship with your wife. Those are possibilities. Just because y'all don't talk to each other every single day doesn't mean that she doesn't love you. The same as you not talking to her every day doesn't mean you don't love her. It's nice to hear those from time to time, but when you are out to help the other person become more successful, when you're out to help them you're willing to do the work on yourself so that they will see that your work is paying off. Your marriage will become better and it will become stronger. And it's all because you're willing to stick it out and work on that problem, work on those issues, and work that pump until that water finally comes splashing out of the end. So guys, with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let you go. I thank you for listening. If you are, again, a first time listener, thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so by going to relaxedmale.com/subscribe, or whatever podcatcher you're listening to, podcasting app, on the Apple podcast, you can actually click the down arrow or actually click follow and then click the down arrow. And that actually does you a big favor in that it'll actually download the episode to your phone. So if you end up going through a big patch of no cell signal, of a big old dead zone, say you're driving through anywhere in New Mexico. Sorry guys, in New Mexico, y'all don't have any cell signal. I don't know how y'all survive out there. But anyhow, you say you're out in the middle of New Mexico and you're listening to the Relaxed Male, and all of a sudden I'm in mid sentence and nothing. Why? Because you don't have any signal. They didn't buffer enough. And so you have to wait until you find another town, and it might have a good enough cell signal that you're able to pick up the rest of the episode. But if you download the episode, you know what? You can just go through those dead zones with no problem, because it's already been preloaded onto your phone. And once you get finished listening, it deletes itself automatically. It's a great thing. If you're also on Apple Podcast, be doing me a big solid if you were actually to leave a rating and review. Let people know what you think of the show, what you think about the topics being discussed. That gives other people the information they need to decide whether they're going to be able to, they would like to listen to it also. This doesn't help me so much in ratings or in the charts or anything like that. Some people have that misconception. But it does give me social credit and helps them to be able to find the show and determine whether it's worthy of their time or not. Anybody else who's got an Android phone or doesn't listen through Apple Podcasts, that's great. You can also go to relaxedmale.com/podchaser and be able to leave a rating and review there. That helps out tremendously. But big ask that I want to do is share this podcast episode out. Share it with your friends, your family, on your networks, social networks, whether you're on Twitter or DBuzz or Facebook or Instagram or, Parler, Getter, whatever. Just share this out. Let people know that, hey, there is this show out here called Relaxed Male, and man, I think y'all need to listen to it. If you got a friend who you think this would really apply to, go ahead and send a link to the episode over to their through the text message, because it'll let them know that you're thinking of them. Let them know why you think. It's like, dude, we were talking about that, this very problem last night. Here's another guy who's saying some stuff that might help you out. Give them the information, let them know, let them listen. And that will actually help our numbers grow, help us become a bigger group. So share this out. Tell everybody you can about Relax Male, because this show, this business, I want it to turn into a movement that draws men from all around going, yes, there's a place for where I can get rid of this nice guy. I can take him. We can send him off, send him out into the wilderness and not have to worry about him ever again, because he's going to come back as a man who wants to live life on his terms. So guys, with that, I thank you again. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, bye.